Welcome to Curiousaholic, the show where we question the past and imagine the future, where we learn from people's stories, learn from history's lessons, and unveil some of the dangers that lie ahead in the future. And in today's episode, we spoke with Ethan Poetic, who is a survivor of a multi-car pileup that was caused by an 18-wheeler. He is now a motivational speaker, a keynote speaker, and is also a self-published author. He wrote the book called The Inspirational Story of Ethan A. Poetic, Chronicles of Adversities, Education, Sports, Relationships, and Resiliency. And you guys are going to see that Ethan definitely went through some hard stuff and he overcame, and now he's, finding a new life, and he's definitely doing better from all that.
Yeah, so hope you guys enjoy this episode. I think we can learn a lot from the message that he has to spread.
All right, so leave a comment and what you think about his story. I think you guys are definitely going to find some inspiration from what he has to say.
Yeah, catch you guys on the next one.
Thanks.
It's a mathematical equation of 99% chance of death versus 1% chance of life. And I realize not all mathematical equations is always going to be the right way, because sometimes that small percentage can override a higher percentage. And that's the way I look at it. And there's more to it. But ultimately, I shouldn't be here. But here I am, present. Prior to the car accident, I was supposed to go to college. Prior to that, start off at community college, get my driver's license, start work. But unfortunately, life has a way of having a detour that becomes out of your control. And sometimes we have to get back up from things that don't go our way in life, whether it's a mechanic not doing the job right or someone making the wrong turn on the road. But ultimately, we have to learn how to overcome things in order to become successful.
Do you recall, where you were, like the moments or the hours, even the days leading up to the accident? Do you remember those moments? Like, did you have any eerie feelings leading up to it, or were you just going about your life?
I was just going about my life. I was helping out with this nonprofit at the time, which was called Children Deserve a Chance Foundation, which is now rebranded to Atalo. We were selling Dewsbury watches to help raise money for his nonprofit. And the CEO, and actually former CEO and current founder, Jordan S. Steffi, was leading the pack. He had his staff, he had donors and sponsors, where we were just plugging away. Everything just seemed normal as I was making a lot of progress in my own life. His program helped out people who wanted to further their education or needed extra support. But the day of, that situation I was involved in, I didn't think it was going to happen. I wasn't even thinking about that. I was just thinking, hey, we had a nice turnout with the event. We exceeded our goals. We matched the fundraiser and over-delivered.
And which date was it exactly? When was this? The year and the date?
Saturday, March 19, 2011.
So what happened exactly? So
basically, I was told my driver ran into an 18-wheeler head on. He died instantly. My little cousin died.
Oh, wow.
My aunt suffered some injuries. My other cousin suffered more like the psychological injuries. He knows what happened. He saw it. But he was on the opposite car seat of me. I was behind the driver. And that's where I faced that mathematical equation. Yeah. It's not that, that car accident was meant to happen. It just happened. And for me, by looking at all that stuff I told you about, it gave me closure in the sense of, okay, this is what happened. This is where I was at during that time period. And I'm like, wow, jeez, it's like I started imagining traffic being backed up 5 miles each way.
Mm-hmm.
Because that serious of a car accident, it's like a ripple effect. And it affected a lot of people's lives.
Okay.
Definitely did. Just to understand, so you were saying, so you were in the car and there was the driver and they came into the 18-wheeler. How exactly happened? So was this at an intersection or
Yeah, it was on a highway, like a street highway,
street highway? Okay.
and I mean he's responsible for the car accident. Unfortunately, he passed, and that's a situation of a choice was made, but at the same time, Route 30 is known as one of the most scariest highways in America due to the high traffic demand during the daytime. Then you're dealing with, different speeds of people.
You mentioned that the driver passed away. Do you think it was negligence on his part, that he caused the accident, or do you think it was like literally an accident?
It was negligence for the driver. The passenger did make it out alive. She just had broken bones. Based on what I saw, it's just, I see this car accident. I see all these people and everything. It's the driver's fault because, hey, he's the one who caused it. He initiated it, and unfortunately, a lot of people got, suffered through his passing. Like maybe his parents found out he passed away, his adult children, and other family members. And for me, I couldn't make it to the funeral because of my situation. And by the time I already found out, I'm like, in my own situation, I got to deal with.
Are you able to recall how you were able to get out of the situation itself? So, there was the crash that happened. Was there someone that saved you? Was there someone that, came to your help?
I go up by saying, can you imagine people calling the cops, and the cops arrive and they have to use the yellow tape to block off the intersection, and you got to call the fire department where they have to use the jaws of life to cut the car in half. Then you have to call the EMT people to check my pulse to see if I still got a blood flow, and then they got to put me on put a neck gurney on me and put me on the stretcher, then go to the nearest hospital. And that journey in itself is like a mathematical equation because I should have died within 3 minutes, maybe 5 at the most, but it just didn't happen.
Yeah, all those events leading up to you being saved, right? They all add up. There's time between all of those, and at any moment you could have not been there and made it out. So can you tell us also about the injuries you sustained and what kind of surgeries and rehab you had to do? Because I'm sure that played a big part in you getting back to where you are right now.
The injuries of left black eye, a torn aorta, injured wrist. Lost a lot of blood, had a concussion, lost a lot of weight. As far as rehab goes, it goes back to speech therapy where I was so used to speaking. So normally now I gotta learn how to sound out words, stretch out the vowels. Then there's occupational therapy, physical therapy, It's like trying to rework the muscles again, trying to pick up the small things like a beanbag, a pencil, a pen. Those were difficult days, and relearn how to walk again from a wheelchair. And then eventually I got put on a feeding tube because my larynx stopped working.
Oh, really?
And if I would have ate or drank anything, the consequences would have been pneumonia. And with pneumonia, it attacks the lungs and other stuff, and that would make the health thing worse. Now I'd be on antibiotics, and it took a lot of restraint not to eat or drink anything while being on a feeding tube.
I just want to understand, regarding the accident. So was this the driver going and then the truck hitting you guys from the side? Like how exactly?
He went into another lane.
Oh, okay. The driver went into
Yes.
another lane. Okay, and then the truck came and hit from behind. Or from the side?
Now the truck was going this way, the driver was going this way and went down and bang.
Oh, it was
That's
head
based
So it
on
was
what
like
I saw-
face to face. Wow.
Yeah, that's
was
based
head on.
on what I saw in the pictures.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay, I see. Oh, wow. Okay, so that is intense then if it's a head-on collision. Okay. So in the hospital when they brought you in, I think they put you in a medically induced coma. Is that right?
I believe so. With all the medicines, I was on cloud nine. I was sleeping so much.
Hmm.
But at the same time, when I had that surgery, I was told a woman cried because she thought I died on the operating table because I lost a pulse, maybe. And then when the surgery was done, it was like, we'll see what happens. And it was just a waiting game to see if I would wake up again. And when I did become wake up, two things happened. The woman who cried on her shift saw me awake, was still on cloud nine. She cried tears of joy. The day I woke up is the day I became a walking living miracle.
You absolutely did.
Yeah, you did. So did you have to follow any like therapy, like for your mental health in the hospital after the accident? Because I know, for people that go through traumatic events, sometimes it could be, difficult to accept all the things and the events that unraveled. So did you have any, people in the hospital helping you get through that mentally?
I didn't see no counselor, actually. It wasn't until years later. It's a situation where I remember talking to the chaplain, talking to certain people about it. But it's just a situation where I was on so much medicine that my body's five senses were desensitized. And it just wasn't the same. It wasn't until I got weaned or detoxed off the medicines that I started getting my feelings again. Then all of a sudden I started going through the motions of waves, like wondering what's going on here. Like, I'm not addicted to the drugs. I had a clean detox. I'm not doing no alcohol. I'm not turning to anything that's bad. And, it happened for a while. I just had these emotions. And I didn't understand it. Even when I did go to counseling and therapy for it, it helped a little bit expressing how I felt. But something just wasn't clicking. It wasn't until I did a recent interview with the Southeast Times newspaper where the reporter identified what I was experiencing, and that was survivor's remorse.
Interesting.
I had no idea that was the wave of emotion I was experiencing. If I had known that was survivor's remorse, that would have been the correct diagnosis. And that would have been something I would have overcame much sooner. And I would feel those emotions like when my anniversary would come up, where it's like a wave, and eventually a big high of emotion, and next thing you know, a big calm happens. And I didn't understand it. And it took me like a big understanding, like survivor's remorse can relate to people who have to bury their parents or the parents bury their kids. I started looking at that perspective, like I'm not the only person who experienced survivor's remorse, because I was thinking like I realized why I was experiencing it, because I didn't get the proper closure of going to a funeral, but I couldn't make it. I didn't know where their burial site was. And it's like, okay, they passed away, but here I am surviving. And then a shift happened when I was attending like certain events where I realized for each anniversary, it could be a celebration of being in a better position moving forward than how I used to be. So my mindset starts shifting to that, and I have a better perspective.
Do you think it should have been you rather than, the other people in the car? Is that why you're getting that guilt and that survivor's remorse?
Honestly, like, I never wanted to go to that car accident. It caused so much delay and heartache, not only just for me, but all the people who did survive. And it affected a lot of people's life who, was near and dear to those two people who unfortunately passed away. It's like the best example I could give you about my situation is like I did have a concussion. I had this MRI done, and they had me put these headphones on, like the ones you're wearing, and I was listening to jazz music while the thing's spinning. And when the doctor looked at the results of my brain, looked at me, researched the car accident. The person brought in all the staff in here, took a look, said, "Look at me, look at this story, look at the MRI." And he said, "I don't even suffer from post-traumatic stress, which is PSD." So that says a lot right there. That I don't suffer from any PSD. Most people who suffer from PSD is like people who serve in the military in combat, or people who involved with gun violence, or some significant form of emotional trauma. And that's my answer, because when the doctor announced it, I'm just thinking to myself, what is PSD? What is post-traumatic stress? And I just look at it like a blessing. Like, I don't suffer from that. I'm not on any psychological medicines. And that in itself speaks high volumes of the recovery I had, which was a clean one.
Yeah, that's great.
Wow, that's
Do you recall some of the the medications and the drugs they gave you in the hospital? Like you were saying that you came off of those clean. I could imagine that if they give you like hard painkillers and some of these drugs, it can become addicting. So do you recall some of them that they gave you?
Some was for pain, some was for the headache, some was for like sleep, some was cough syrup, some was like a nutritional stuff. I don't remember the whole list, but I just remember it was long.
It was a lot, right?
Yeah, it was longer than the Christmas list.
Yeah.
And slowly but surely start weaning me off and off. But I never became addicted to those medicines, because even with all that downtime I did have away from the hospital, therapy, and everything else, I wasn't using the medicine to like cope with life with prior adversities I had to the car accident. I was just more using it for the current state. And then when I got weaned off it completely, it changed my life. Yet I could say I don't have an urge to want to do prescription medicine. I don't have an urge to want to do alcohol for like numb pain, suppress, or self-medicate. I just don't. Because prior to the car accident, I grew up in a single-parent household, and I saw a lot of people who did self-medicate on prescription medicines and drugs, and they went on a downward spiral life. Like, for example, if you ever saw the story A&E, which is a network channel, they have this one show called Intervention, where they record and do an intervention with a person who's addicted to the opioids or alcohol, and give them the ultimatum that, hey, you either gonna get the help you need, or we're gonna cut you off. And everyone speaks their last, statements before that ultimatum is given. Either that person's gonna give in or give in or give out. And I never had that type of intervention with my family.
Have you been able to forgive what happened? That they caused this accident. Have you been able to go over that?
I mean, I can forgive the person.
Yeah.
So that I can move forward. It's one of those situations where I never had the conversation with the person because they died instantly. And that's something I had to accept. I can't bring that person back to life. They're dead. It's just a DOA, dead on arrival. And I don't know where the guy's buried. And it's been 12 years, and it's just I moved forward in my life for the better, and it shows in my fruits and my labor. But moving forward, I realized that my legacy is bigger than me. It's about inspiring the youth, even though I wasn't planning on doing it, because it shows that by them seeing my walk, me being a productive member of society, that they can overcome their own adversities and turn them into their advantage. I inspire leaders in the business sector, kids on social media who might need something if they're going through something, hear my message, look at my social media, proof that if Ethan can graduate from college and get his driver's license after overcoming that near fatal car accident and not be addicted to drugs, I could overcome my situation. And that to me is like real like significant because it's just when the parents find out about it, it has them look at me in a different light. When the guardians find out, it has them look at me in a different light. And it's become a situation where I've accepted, being an inspiration. And it's like I go places and kids are hugging me in front of their parents. Parents may not know me. I have to break the ice and introduce myself and show them my book. And eventually, some come around and say, hey, I like your story. I like to buy your book. Hey, I like what you're doing with my child in the workplace. Hey, I'm inspired by your story. It makes me want to become a better version of myself. And it's just those comments right there just shows I did do the work. I did make the progress. And I wasn't even trying to be an inspiration. It just happened naturally, organically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because of what you went through.
It's not something that a doctor told me, a physical therapist told me, a speech therapist told me, or even a pastor, preacher, deacon, reverend, or bishop. It just happens.
Also shows that there's a lot of good in the world, right? I mean, a lot of people want to think about, the bad, and there's always bad people out there, but, just based on that outpour of people reaching out to you and, people approaching you in public and all, just shows that there is good in the world, right? So at least we could look forward to that.
Yeah, that's what you're trying to spread. Your story has a lot to it. And if there was one thing that people could remember, what would that be?
About me?
Yeah, about you and your story. Something that they should, learn from you. Like one thing. What would that be?
It's gotta be multiple things.
Oh yeah, okay.
Number one, before this car accident, I was already a strong-willed person. Number two, it's important to take care of your mental health, which I have done. Number three, you have to be willing to understand that not everyone that's around you is good for you. And that's what it took for me to make progress. And distancing myself from certain people, making changes on a priority level. It's like this quote I learned from Magic Johnson. In all the time a person puts in $1 million deal, they can put into $100 million deal. I've leveled up in my life several times over. I stepped outside my comfort zone when I came to writing this autobiography. I was encouraged to do it by this Greek family after I passed my spring semester of college. I wasn't going to do it. But, the old saying is, the key to a man's heart is to his stomach, and they kept feeding me lunch. And it was hard to say no after the third helping. But I realized in life, sometimes we do have to step outside our comfort zone in order to level up in life, in order to do something different, to experience better results. Because most people in my situation wouldn't get behind the wheel.
Yeah.
Most people would want a pity party, but I don't want that. But moving forward, there's a time for me to inspire people. There's a time for me to meet and greet people. But also there's a time for me to keep a balance and get away from the public eye and focus on life. Because the top of one mountain is the bottom of the next. Because I don't want to live off past tense achievements. Because those things are part of my legacy, and it's going to be a blueprint that's going to be forever left for future generations to look at. Because most of the recognitions I've gotten, I'm the first in my family on both sides. 2 Pennsylvania Commonwealth citations, a declaration, voted yay, which is another word for yes by Lancaster City Council members, and the mayor, Denise Sirachi. It was organized by me and Lancaster City Council member Janet Diaz. And then I was also awarded an Overcoming Adversities Award from Millsville University by the head department of Communication and Theater, Dr. Teresa Russell Loretz. When I went to college, none of the HR people knew my story. It wasn't until I started talking about it that it became more aware. But I realized moving forward, when you voice your story, you can use it for the greater good.
Yeah. I just had a question based on something you just said earlier. So I heard you say that, you know, you got behind the wheel. So I presume that you drive now, right? After,
Yes.
Okay. Can you explain the process of, you know, getting back behind the wheel, I guess, at that point? Were you able to just go back right away, or was it like an incremental, like a recovery process?
I didn't have my driver's license prior to my car accident. I was on my way to earning it.
Mm-hmm.
That car accident caused a delay. Long story short, you know, we all learn from failure in life, and it took me maybe 2 times to get my learner's permit. Then it took me 3 times to get my driver's license with 3 different cars. And when I got my driver's license and posted on social media, there was over 300 likes, over 100 comments, that I made a lot of people proud, happy, excited, feeling wonderful that I made a proud achievement. Another achievement was, you know, when I was driving behind the wheel, it felt much different than driving a bus.
Okay.
What do you mean by driving a bus? So were you driving?
Riding the bus.
Riding a bus. Okay.
Yeah, because when I went to college at Harrisburg Area Community College, I used to ride the bus from the city, and it came at no cost because SGA, which is Student Government Association, received funding to pay for all students' busing, transportation needs on the bus. All you had to do was show your ID, and you get on and get off for free.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a humbling experience. And, you know, it did save me a lot of money, but eventually, you know, it was time to level up and get my driver's license and get a free parking permit. But when I went to Millsville University, I had to pay for a parking permit for a year. 3 times, 3 years. And, you know, it's something I remember.
So when you did start to drive, you know, did you have any fears of getting on the road yourself? Because, you know, after such a traumatic accident, a lot of people might be scared to drive.
There really wasn't no fears. It's just matter just adjusting my muscle memory to not hitting the brake too hard. I ended up becoming more of a defensive driver.
Mm-hmm.
I remember just struggling with the parallel parking. Eventually, I mastered it. And then I just remember just helping other people get their driver's license. And then people asking me for rides, and I start charging them gas money.
That's a good way.
Yeah, but eventually, you know, my life started changing again, where I couldn't do that anymore as a hobby. And I never got scared behind the wheel because I had nothing to be scared of. But when I look back on my life prior to the car accident, I was fearless and courageous. It's part of my personality because it's nothing for me to really fear. Because the acronym of fear is false evidence appearing real. The reason why some people get caught up in fear is because of the emotional side to it. But I realize some people are not able to control their breathing techniques. Some people may not be willing to understand that attaining things.
Yeah, so from what I see, it's like you didn't want anything to come in your way of getting your license, you know, getting your own car and driving, because you also equated that with, you know, having your own independence, your own life, going to different places, you know, opening up more avenues. So but you do have that fearless mentality, and I still see it in you, even after this accident. That's why I was asking if you were scared to drive, because a lot of people, even for minor accidents, might, be scared to go behind the wheel. But you, you seem to, push through that, and, you're also trying to inspire others to not be scared of getting their own license. I think it's good to also be careful in general too when we drive, and learn defensive driving, like you said, because sometimes people can drive recklessly or be arrogant in their driving. I think being careful and defensive is the key to have control over your driving. So,
do you practice any like breathing techniques? I know you mentioned that briefly earlier.
I only did it this week because of a basketball clinic. I heard of mindfulness. I've heard of different other stuff, but I'm not really caught up in like that stuff. I realize, the things that we feel is waves of energy. And for me, it's like, I breathe on my own time. Not to be arrogant, it's just, it's something, it's like, for example, if something adversity happened or some type of hardship happened, I'm not going to be breathing crazy or stressing about it, because I realize the thing that I'm facing has already been defeated before. It's just maybe it's my turn to experience it or learn how to overcome it, or ask somebody who did overcome it and understand their story. Because when we start learning from other people's stories that relate to ours, now we have the blueprint and the tools on how to move forward and get past that all over again. And then we become wiser. I just don't really focus on breathing techniques. I just focus on what I can control in my life. I understand breathing is important. I understand some people got asthma. I understand some people have lung deficiency, and I understand that some people may need lung transplant, and some people don't know what they have until it's gone or gets worse. And when someone's smoking, whether it's the vape, cigarettes, weed, you name it, most of that stuff has consequences. But I realize food is medicine when you start eating certain fruits that strengthen the lungs, like sea moss, elderberry syrup, you name it.
Okay.
Interesting.
So
yeah. So you're more thinking of the breathing naturally, right? You're just you're kind of just breathing and not overthinking it, and just kind of going with, like you said, the waves, and just being natural
being
about
present.
it. Yeah.
Some people breathe differently due to certain diagnoses or illness or something going wrong with them, but I realize the things that's going wrong with them can be fixed or reduced. They just have to be open to changes. Like, for example, somebody's metabolism may not burn as fast as it used to before. So instead of, getting fat or gaining weight continuously and wait till you're too big to, exercise, maybe you have to cut back on certain calories, certain things that require more body asset, or switch to a plant-based diet, fruit-based diet, a seafood diet, a smoothie diet, because our bodies is not always the same as it was as to the phases of being a baby, a toddler, a child, a teenager, adult.
Okay.
And it's very important that we understand, what our body is saying to us, getting our blood work checked out, and understanding our family history about certain things ahead of time.
Yeah, it's a good point.
So from what I understand, kind of your whole philosophy with what you're saying is to not dwell on the problems that we have and the obstacles we're facing, but instead to figure out the solutions, because there's always a way, to help ourselves and our problems. Since there are so many other people who have also gone through the same issues, there are existing blueprints as to how to overcome. So that's what I see your mentality. You don't focus on I have a problem. How can I fix it?
Yeah, definitely, because like for example, I used to listen to commercials, but now I just mute them. I'm seeing all of these pharmaceutical drug commercials, and I'm thinking to myself, all this pharmaceutical message is about is having people live with mental health illness, not live a life of mental health wellness.
Mm.
And I realized some of these pharmaceutical messages, people are the biggest drug dealers. It's just the difference is they're doing it legally.
They
And I'm looking
control
at
the
the
monopoly.
legalized marijuana, where I realized some of the government don't want to put resources on stopping the cartel or these low-level drug dealers. They realize, let's just sell it ourselves. We'll put a cap on how much they can carry in possession.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's about money. That's the bottom line. More money for the school districts, more money for the towns, the boroughs, the cities' budget, create jobs, create benefits.
Mm.
And that's just the reality of, some of the things we face. Because some people get caught up in the me mentality,
Yeah.
but we take a second to realize, I can relate to that person who went through this. I can relate to that person who went through that. Now I found a common denominator. Let's see if they overcame it or not. Okay, let's read a book. Let's listen to an ebook. Let's go to the library and figure out what is it that I need to overcome in a certain amount of time period.
Yeah.
So eventually, when you overcome it, it goes off your checklist where it disappears.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, you're gonna experience peace, unless you allow certain things in your life to grow. I learned that some people's wound scars and trauma that goes unhealed becomes toxic to the point where they're so accepting of it that it becomes their best friend. And it becomes a stronghold. And eventually, some people hold on to things they're not supposed to hold on to for so long that some people end up distancing themselves from that person or a certain group of people because they realize this isn't a healthy situation to be around. And that's one of my examples about mental health, illness, and wellness. Wellness is when you can live healthily, feel healthy, smell healthy, taste healthy. Again, it goes back to, does a person really want to do what it takes to step outside their comfort zone and try something new that is beneficial for their own greater good?
Mm-hmm. So would you agree that, someone that may be struggling with mental health, instead of going right away for the, the pharmaceutical drugs and getting treatment like that, they should maybe experience, with exercise and other types of therapy before getting into the drugs and depending on those in order to get better from the mental health? Look, I'm sure a lot of people need those depending on their situation, like you kind of mentioned earlier with the breathing, right? Everyone's different. But I think people should also experiment with other methods before resorting to drugs right away.
Yeah.
I agree, because exercise promotes, serotonin and other feel-good chemicals. It allows our body to use up more energy, burn calories, and become a better version of ourselves. But not everyone is motivated to want to do the work. Some people want a quick fix with long-term consequences.
How did exercise help you in your recovery process?
I went from a wheelchair to barely wanting to get out of there to a nurse tells me, if you don't start making progress, we're going to put you on blood thinners. And then they start pushing me to start walking again. Even when I didn't want to, at my lowest strength, on a feeding tube. And that in itself was just showing that somebody cared more than a title of, I'm a therapist, I'm a primary care physician. They're caring about the hearts of many people. And some people in the medical field wear their hearts on their sleeves.
Yeah.
Exercise was important for me to just improve. I remember one day I went from walking to jogging to doing this sprint at a youth camp, and I become one of the fastest people there. I remember when the
Wow.
ball was thrown to me in a game of two-hand touch, and I took off, and it was for a touchdown.
Hmm.
And I just was like, did I just get my athletic ability back? And I was just like dumbfounded in a sense of, wow, all that work I put in paid off. And I wasn't even no bodybuilder.
I had another question in my head because you were saying how being in the hospital and having so many people come to you, and in a way you were you were seeing the true colors for some people, and then you also mentioned your parents there. I guess you go more in depth in your book regarding that. Like right now, if you're okay, like talking about that, like how is your relationship with them? Because you said they weren't particularly helpful during that situation, or
Yeah, it became a situation where I thought things were gonna change, but I was in the wrong. And I mean, I'll tell you a little bit. It's like I come from a single parent household of five, growing up in poverty because the men my mom was with would leave. Not only did they leave physically, mentally, they also leave financially. My mom was working in the medical field, like as a nurse, I think, or aide, and that's not enough money to live off of with five children.
yeah,
That's below poverty. Even when she receiving child support payments, even when receiving food stamps, Medicaid, being on Section 8. When it came to my biological father, it's more of an estranged relationship to the point where, he denied that I was his before he even saw me. And it took me some time to like understand, why did my aunt and my grandma tell me that? And I look back when I realized, it's one thing to, have a girlfriend and already have a child with, but then you get two women pregnant at the same time. That's a lot of shame to live with. And I realized the opposite of shame is empathy. Humility, taking accountability for your actions. That's something my dad didn't want to do for whatever reason. And it became a situation when it came to the car accident. Here he is at the hospital to rehab, yet when he got worried and my health got better, the disappearing act happened all over again.
oh wow,
Yeah, it's in those moments, right? In the hardest moments that you see people's true colors, right? Are they gonna show up? Are they not? And yeah, I guess sometimes it might not be your, necessarily your family that ends up being the most supportive. It could be, like you said, people that you don't even know, or, strangers that are, good people that end up showing up when you need them most. So I think people did well for you in that case.
Yeah. I can tell you a quick story how everything turned around on one part where, let's see, I get contacted by my stepmom, who's my dad's wife of nearly over 20 years. At that time, it was much less. She said she wants to meet me for lunch. She brings my younger brother with her. We're eating, having a good time. And then she dropped a bomb on me. It was a situation. She told me my dad's not gonna help me get my life back together. And I'm thinking to myself, you brought me out here just to tell me that? You would think about telling me this on the ride here. But I also realize you're my dad's wife, so you're gonna be submissive and do his dirty work. So I pretty much lost my appetite during that moment, and I told her just to drop me off at Manhattan Township High School for this basketball game. And I was there. Sports was already my safe haven before, this car accident. And while I was at the high school, I was able to catch up with a lot of people. And later down the road, to fast forward everything, I ended up getting my driver's license and get a car, which was a 95 Ford Taurus. Eventually, it was time to upgrade, and this one woman took me up to York, PA, to York Apple Honda dealership for a brand new car, right out the showroom, a red Honda Civic, and the year was 2016 in the month of May. She didn't believe me I was getting a brand new car. She saw me do a test drive. I liked the car. I was sold. And she finally believed me when I told the dealer, start the paperwork and finalize everything. And then she pulled out her cell phone, started taking pictures of me nonstop. And then she put me on a good blast by sharing all those pictures with her family and friends. And, it was a proud moment. And when other people start finding out about it, some people, were telling me I should drive up to my dad's house and tell him and show him this is what you missed out on. I didn't want to do that because I realized he probably found out through word of mouth. And one day when I go back to where I'm originally from, Coastal, Pennsylvania, I get my picture taken in front of Welcome to Coastal sign. As I'm walking back to my car, I hear a loud voice yelling for me. And I see my dad at the stop sign. But the other way around is he see me in a brand new car. He can't take credit for it. He can't say he played a role in it. It's a situation where he has to eat his own words for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That I told my wife to tell him I'm not going to help him get his life back together. And the purpose behind that story is it shows I turned discouragement into encouragement. That's the point, because there's a lot of people who experience that with their own fathers, where they feel discouraged. Oh, he's not here. He sent his wife to say this or that. But it's in those teachable moments that I end up becoming a better version of myself by not allowing somebody's words to get the best of me. Instead, I got the best of that energy that was given to me and transferred it right back. And that's what I call turning discouragement into encouragement.
To not get, bogged down by the negativity in your life, and to look for those positive moments that are going to come, one way or another. Even though, shit might be hitting the fan at a certain moment, there's going to be better times, and there's going to be better moments to hope for, and not just, whatever hell you're going through at that moment.
Yeah, because what else, can we do in our life? Should we all just dwell and be a victim and say, I'm hurt, I'm sad, I'm this, being sad sometimes is just a waste of time. You're not helping yourself.
It's like, what are you doing to improve the situation? That's what you need to focus on. And I think that's exactly what your message is, right? To take accountability and, move forward and find what works for you, no matter what it is. Like for you, I think it's probably the sports and, keeping active, like you said, is kind of like your safe haven, but other people could be other outlets,
Before maybe closing, kind of a deeper question that we'd like to ask you. So we spoke about, the relationships that you had with people, your parents. If I may ask you, what is your relationship right now with God after this accident?
I've always believed in God. I remember going to church, Bible study. Our relationship was good. It's just understanding that, life happens. And not everything's going to be clean. And sometimes you have to get dirty and come out clean. Like, for example, even with all my success, accolades, awards, public recognitions, I don't have a great relationship with my parents. I have an estranged relationship. And that's something I had to live with. Because I can't change people. I can change the direction of my life. But I also read stories about people who had strange parents, and that could be an alienation to a sense of we can't allow somebody who's supposed to be there to hold us back. Sometimes in life, like some people who are orphans go on with their life without their biological parents, even though they don't know who their family is. There's people who grow up in foster care
Yeah.
who don't know much. And you know the cards were stacked against them until some people started helping them. You know, people gotta understand. You know, when it comes to God, He's there. He was there before we were born. He'll be there after we pass away. And you know, it's that dash, whether it's in a headstone or obituary. Those are the things that we're going to be remembered for by people. Was our children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, community, social media, you name it. God is real, and God is good.
Great. I think that's a perfect way to end it.
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, Ethan, I mean, we really appreciate you coming on, sharing your story, and just sharing, you know, the mindset that you have, because I think it's very inspirational for a lot of people. Even if people don't go through the craziest things in life or have, you know, a crazy event or trauma they pass through, sometimes people can be bogged down by just the little stuff in life, you know, work, relationship. There's so much to stress about.
Yeah.
But what you're showing here is there's always a way. And, you know, this too shall pass, as they say.
Cool. I want to leave people with my social media handles. Let's see. Snapchat, TikTok, and Instagram is Ethan Poetic 23. That's spelled ETHAN POETIC 23. For Twitter, Ethan V 23. My YouTube channel, Facebook, and LinkedIn is Ethan Poetic. And then, of course, my book is called The Inspirational Story of Ethan A. Poetic, Chronicles of Adversities, Sports, Relationships, and Resiliency. My book is available as a hardcover, softcover, and an ebook version pretty soon. The audio version is going to be available where I narrate the whole book myself. And then on top of that, for keynote speaking engagements, for serious inquiries, my website is called ethanspeaks.com, where you can contact me or fill out the request for consultation, where I have a list of questions you answer, and we can make things happen, see if it aligns, and continue for me to grow. But more importantly, share a message that can inspire someone to overcome their own mental health problems, life challenges.
Yeah. I think, yeah.
Perfect.
You're doing great. So we'll put all the links, you know,
In
in
the
the description
description.
of our podcast, YouTube video, to your book, and to your social media, so people can check that out. And yeah, Ethan, we want to thank you again. You know, more power to
All
you,
right,
man.
thank you very
Keep it up.
much.
Yeah, keep it up. You're doing
I look
great.
forward to hearing from you in the future.
Keep going. Yes, sir.
Thanks, man. Take care.
Thanks.